So this past weekend, 16th of November, over there in Riyadh, part of the Riyadh season, there was some sort of Mexican night by Golden Boy Oscar De La Hoya and his promotional company, headlined by Gilberto Ramirez versus Chris Billam-Smith, unification fight at the Cruiserweight division, the WBA and the WBO. Now, I believed and I predicted that Zurdo Ramirez would win by unanimous decision, which he did. And as much as the two fighters are very respectable to each other before the fight and after the fight, not so much can be said for the trainers. Chris Billam-Smith trainer being Shane McGuigan, and one of Gilberto's trainers being Malik Scott. Now, Malik Scott is famous for, as a boxer, throwing a fight and pretending to be knocked out by Deontay Wilder. All opinion based, by the way. There is no proof or evidence to say that this is exactly what happened or it actually happened. It's just my observation and my thought process. And then as a trainer, he became Deontay Wilder's trainer because apparently they're good brethren, whatever. Cool. So that's his claim to fame. Shane McGuigan's claim to fame is having the famous boxing father, Barry McGuigan. He himself, Shane, did have a boxing career, even though it was very short. 10 fights in about 3 years. Lost one, won 9. And as an amateur, he had a decent little career. But he turned from boxer to trainer. He's 36 years old. In all honesty, he could actually still be a boxer himself. But he's turned out to be a very decent trainer. Training the likes of Lawrence Okoli, Josh Taylor, Carl Frampton, Anthony Fowler. He had Daniel Dubois for a couple years. Luke Campbell. He had Chantel Cameron for a while. George Groves in the latter part of his career. Decent fighters. David Hay at some point for a year or two. Decent boxers that were also champions. Some weren't, some were, but he's had a decent amount of boxers with good records under his tutelage. While Malik Scott is only, for me, from what I know, he's worked with Deontay Wilder and now he's working alongside other trainers with Zurdo Ramirez. Now, when I predicted my outcome of this fight, I didn't care about the trainers because this particular fight for me was despite the trainers. It didn't matter how many trainers or how great a trainer. Chris Billam-Smith could have had the late great Emmanuel Stewart in his corner, 2 of them in his corner. With his attributes and with his abilities, I didn't see him having much of a chance of beating Zurdo Ramirez. The best chance I saw him having was a puncher's chance. Maybe he may catch Zurdo with a lucky punch out of nowhere, which I couldn't see happening because I just don't see Chris Billam-Smith as being quick enough to land such a punch or being able to deliver such a punch with the lack of pace that he has with his big, heavy duty frame. And Chris Billam-Smith, even though he's on the bigger side of the weight classes as a person, the skill set, the attributes, the punch selection, how he delivers his punches, everything combined, his slow plodding feet, everything combined for me said that he wasn't going to win this fight. And so said, so done. And Malik Scott, before the fight, said that, in his opinion, Zurdo Ramirez is levels above Chris Billam-Smith. And Shane McGuigan didn't take too kindly to that, and he wanted to cry about it. He had some stuff to say about it. He said,
I don't know how he's still got a job. He's just a guy that just talks a lot of shit. All of the shit he talks, he never comes, to truth. You know what I mean? He hasn't trained anybody to win any fight of merit. Even the fighters that have moved on, their best days have been in my gym, and we've developed multiple world champions, and we don't go out standing at the top of the thing throwing shade across to other coaches. Like, if someone's going to call me out like Malik Scott, he's like, just go back and look at the track record. I just can't believe Deontay Wilder even employed him after knocking him out in about 30 seconds.
Well, one thing you did say in that interview, one bit of credit you did give Chris Williams, so he said that he's got a good coach in yourself, which I'm sure means a lot to you.
Well, I don't care about him talking that nice shit to me, mate. It annoys me what he thinks of my fighter.
And then Malik Scott, in turn, after he heard these comments, said,
You want to know what's real crazy? I just said the guy is it's levels above him. That's it. Shane McGuigan is a prick and too sensitive. This is boxing. I want my guy to win. I'm only going off the math. Like, this guy's a tough guy, but Zerto has fought tons of tough guys. He's not like a extra skillful guy. My guy is. Why are you getting so sensitive? Like, why, you should be sensitive that Daniel Dubois didn't know how to defend from a jab when he left you. That Don Charles had to clean that up. Like, and then he say something in the interview, when fighters leave him, they degress. Daniel Dubois became heavyweight champion the minute he got away from him. Like, and that don't mean Shane is a bad trainer. That just means boxing and life happened. So when boxing and life happened to me with a Deontay Wilder, don't get sensitive and bring it up from a defense because I say your guy is levels down from my guy. I only go off of craft. It's not personal with me. So, like, he took a shot, but that's how these fighters, that's how these trainers and everybody is in boxing. Very sensitive.
Now, for me, all of this is unnecessary. It's unnecessary. These trainers ain't going to get in the ring and fight. And for me, I believe Shane didn't like what the man said about his fighter and got all sensitive. But sometimes the truth hurts because for me, I don't rate Malik Scott as a boxer. I don't rate Malik Scott as a trainer. But he was absolutely spot on when he said that between these two guys, Chris Billam-Smith and Zerto Ramirez, Zerto is levels above Chris Billam-Smith. Now, for the amount of me not rating Malik Scott as a boxer or trainer, it doesn't matter. The fact is he has been a boxer and he is a trainer. These are things that he's actively done and actively doing. So therefore, he has a lot more knowledge than someone who is myself talking on YouTube about boxers. He's got a lot more knowledge about that type of thing than I do. And he displayed that by stating what I think is an obvious fact that Zerto Ramirez is levels above Chris Billam-Smith. Size matters, but over the years that Zerto's been boxing, he's grown into this weight. He was a very, very big super middleweight. More time, people were calling him a weight bully. He was down there for a while and he stayed at the super middleweight, light heavyweight. He stayed at super middleweight for a very long time. Very much longer than I believe he needed to, but it's not for me to say what you should and shouldn't do. But he stayed there for a while. And when he moved up to light heavyweight, he very quickly moved up to cruiserweight. And now he seems to be comfortable at cruiserweight. He doesn't seem to be lacking in any punch resistance or anything like that. And he seems very comfortable at this weight class due to his frame and his height. And with that being said, couple that with his ability and how long he's been fighting and the two challenges that he's had prior to Malik Scott, I believe that despite of who his trainer is, he will beat Chris Billam-Smith. So this whole war of words between the trainers is neither here nor there. They're not about to get in the ring and have a fight. There's nothing going to happen between these two. So it's much ado about nothing. Chris Billam-Smith lost gallantly to Zerto Ramirez, and now Ramirez is a unified cruiserweight champion. The other two champions at this weight, he needs to either do a unification, he needs to unify and become the next Mexican undisputed champion after Canelo. The second undisputed Mexican champion in history. That's what I believe he should push and try to get. Whether he'll get that or not is another story, which we'll talk about in another video. I just wanted to touch on the fact that Zerto won unanimous decision. It's not even really no point talking about the fight really per se, because after the first round, where Chris Billam-Smith had most of his success, from the second round to the 12th round, it was a shutout. For me, Zerto Ramirez won every single round after that round. And in all honesty, the cards were quite modest in my opinion. Made Chris Billam look better than he actually was on the night. 116 to 112, twice with 116 to 113 once. So, you know, Chris Billam-Smith can go back to the drawing board. I don't think he should particularly change his trainer. I do think Shane McGuigan is a good trainer. I just think that he gets a bit emotional when it comes to his fighters and people's criticisms of his fighters. People can only say what they see, and I don't think Malik Scott was any way disrespectful to you or his fighter. In fact, I remember interviews before the fight where Malik Scott was saying that Shane's a good trainer. He's got a good trainer in Shane McGuigan. That's what he was saying. He was just saying that Chris Billam-Smith's ability makes it be somewhat of a mismatch for him versus Zerdo Ramirez. And so said, so done. So, Shane, get out your feelings, Donny. We respect you as a trainer. Keep training these fighters. Keep doing well. Chris Billam-Smith was at a tactical mismatch in this fight and he lost gallantly. He has definitely got a future still in this game and he can go back to the drawing board with his head held high and figure out what's next on this journey. I don't think he should go up to heavyweight as yet unless he's struggling to make cruiserweight. I don't think he's struggling to make cruiserweight. It doesn't look like that. So he should stay down there at cruiserweight and go for them titles again. Get yourself back in the winners bracket, go down the rankings and fight some more guys that are worthy contenders so that you can eliminate them and work your way back up. Because to be fair to you, the fights that Chris Billam-Smith has had in his career leading up to this title that he eventually won, I don't think he had really that many fights with really tough cruiserweight opposition. In my opinion, if you look through his resume, you don't see any of the top cruiserweights in his resume at all. I think the best fighter that he fought other than Richard Riakporhe and Lawrence Okoli was Matsunek. And he's not really the top end echelon. His best days are definitely behind him. So there are definitely other cruiserweight contenders that Chris Billam-Smith can match up against to eliminate them to get himself back up into a world title contention. So maybe he will do that. We'll see. Time will tell. But he definitely doesn't have to retire. He can still crack on and have a very decent career. So that's the end of that. And I'll see you guys in the next video.